Good morning, friends. In continuation of my lecture sessions on carbohydrate metabolism. So, in this lecture session, we will discuss in detail about hormonal regulation of carbohydrate metabolism. So far, in the initial chapters, we have seen how actually carbohydrates are digested, how carbohydrates are absorbed, and then the glucose, when it enters into your bloodstream, how it is sequestered into various tissues. So these topics we had seen already. So in this lecture session, we will see how actually glucose level is maintained, or otherwise carbohydrate metabolism is maintained. We knew that we eat food in a little excess so that we can store it and then we can use it. Okay, so this is the kind of mechanism that exists in our body. So when we have this type of mechanism, we need to have some kind of a sensory system which can recognize glucose level in our body. Okay, glucose levels in our body. So by using this sensory mechanism, we can maintain our blood glucose level between 80 to 120 milligram per deciliter. Okay, so in this range we need to maintain. We cannot go down. If we go down, what will happen? Hypoglycemia will come. If you go up, you will have hyperglycemic condition, or otherwise diabetic condition arises. So we need to avoid these two conditions. So that's the reason why we need to have a sensory mechanism inside our body to maintain the glucose levels. As glucose play multiple roles, okay, in our body, because it provides energy in various ways. Both ATP is provided by going through glycolysis and Krebs cycle, and also HMP shunt pathway gives us NADPH. Okay, that means from glycolysis and TCA cycle we get ATP and reducing equivalents like NADH and FADH2. Okay, so here we have the thermal energy that we need, heat energy, and here oxidation reduction potential is actually maintained with the help of NADPH levels. That's the reason why we will have multiple chemicals in our body which acts like sensory systems, so that they help us adjust our body chemistry so that both maintenance of glucose level between 80 to 120 is ensured with various types of activities. Okay, because you all knew this one. Okay, if you go outside onto the road, you will find different types of people who are working in different ways. Some of you may be working with your brain, some of you with your physical activity. It is like that. Okay, so that's the reason why our energy requirements alter. Okay, hence we need to find a mechanism via which we can both maintain the glucose level in this range, as well as we need to provide energy whatever that is needed, either ATP or NADH or FADH2 or NADPH. So all this is done by several chemicals in our body. Many of them are hormones. So that's the reason why let's discuss in detail about the role of those hormones in carbohydrate metabolism, how it is regulating. Okay, let's go ahead. So everything boils down to this one. We will have mechanisms to either reduce blood glucose level or increase blood glucose level, so that we will strike a balance between these two mechanisms to help us maintain blood glucose level at appropriate level. So here blood glucose level is reduced, okay, by insulin and somatostatin. So these are the two chemicals, the two hormones which help us, because whenever we have higher blood glucose in the blood, then these two chemicals will be released so that our blood glucose level will be reduced. And to enhance blood glucose level, we have more chemicals like glucagon, epinephrine, cortisol, growth hormone, ACTH, thyroid hormone. So all of them play very important roles in the maintenance of blood glucose level. So here, to reduce blood glucose level, we have only two. Actually, insulin is the major hormone which does the job. Okay, somatostatin is also there, but here we have so many. Why do we have so many hormones for increasing blood glucose level? Increasing blood glucose level means what? You eat, store and use. Because storing we are doing like glycogen and fatty acids. Okay, so these are the two ways how energy is stored in our body. So this is a simple mechanism. Okay, because these are uniform. Whereas while using it, how many different types of uses are there? It means like the internal organs, they themselves need to work. Okay, and then how many types of works are there? Physical. Okay, sometimes you need to maintain thermal, sometimes you need to maintain oxidation reduction potential, etc. Okay, so multiple roles are, for multiple roles we need to use energy. So that's the reason why we have various different types of chemicals which are unrelated to each other, because epinephrine, cortisol, glucagon, growth hormone, thyroid hormone, ACTH, they are not related to each other as far as chemistry is concerned, as well as functionality is concerned, their origin is concerned. Okay, so that shows a lot about the wider control that we have, controlling mechanisms that we have in our body for regulation of blood glucose level as well as carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, so let's go ahead and then see how actually these individual chemicals are actually helping us in controlling carbohydrate metabolism. So this is one simple way to represent the role of insulin as well as glucagon in the maintenance of blood glucose level. Okay, so this mechanism we have seen earlier also, but let's discuss in detail. Whenever after eating, okay, in the fed state, carbohydrates are digested and then absorbed, so that in the blood you will have higher blood sugar. The moment it crosses 160 milligram per deciliter, otherwise when it is going, okay, then it will promote insulin release from beta islets of Langerhans in the pancreas. Then what will happen? The insulin is released into blood, that will activate tissue cells like skeletal muscle, because skeletal muscle and liver, these are the two tissues where we have GLUT4 receptors are there, or insulin sensitive glucose transporters are there. Hence in the skeletal muscles and liver, what they will do, they will take up glucose. Glucose is converted to glycogen, okay, and then it is stored. And in skeletal muscles also it is converted to glycogen. So in this way it will reduce the blood sugar level. So as you can see, if the blood glucose level, this is 80, this is 120. Okay, let's say this is 120, this is 80. So once you ate, what will happen? The blood glucose level will increase. As it is increasing, insulin will also increase, so thereby it will come down, and it will also come down like this. And when it reaches, okay, below the 80 milligram per deciliter, the minimum glucose level that is needed, then glucagon will be released, so that gluconeogenesis or otherwise other forms of glucose production are enhanced. So thereby it will pick up blood glucose level will pick up, and then it is maintained, okay, with the help of glucagon. It is like that. Okay, so insulin, what it does, whenever there is high blood glucose level is there, beta islets of Langerhans releases insulin. Insulin activates liver as well as skeletal muscle to take up glucose first, and it also promotes biosynthesis of glycogen, the stored form of glucose. So in this way it lowers the blood sugar level. So the moment blood sugar level reduces, okay, blood sugar level, low blood glucose level, if it is there, it enhances glucagon production from alpha islets of Langerhans. So thereby the glucagon activates glycogenolysis, glycogen breakdown, so that glucose is produced, and that raises the blood glucose level. So in this way, insulin and glucagon levels are maintained in a balanced manner. So thereby it helps in maintenance of blood glucose level between 80 to 120. Okay, so your blood glucose level will fluctuate like this. Okay, so this is the way how glucagon and insulin helps in the maintenance of blood glucose level. So in brief, if you see the role of insulin, what it does, when insulin is released into blood circulation, glucose uptake into muscle and adipose tissue, glycolysis is enhanced, glycogen synthesis is enhanced, protein synthesis is enhanced, uptake of ions will also happen. More like anabolic reactions are enhanced. Okay, it's always synthesis and storage of energy. On the other hand, glucagon, what it does, gluconeogenesis, glycogenolysis, lipolysis, ketogenesis and proteolysis. So this is actually enhanced by glucagon. Okay, glucagon. So glucagon stops this one and insulin stops this. Means they are, glucagon and insulin work are exactly opposite to each other in all these biochemical pathways. Further, regarding other hormones, first let's see the role of stress. Okay, role of stress, and through stress how actually corticosteroids play a major role, are playing some important role in carbohydrate metabolism. So here let's see, stress can be in two forms. One is short term stress, the second one is prolonged or chronic stress. In case of short term stress, you can see here, okay, adrenal medulla releases catecholamines, or otherwise we can call it as epinephrine. Okay, epinephrine. Epinephrine is flight, fright, fight, okay, hormone. It works like glucagon. Not exactly the same, but it does something similar to glucagon. It enhances glucose levels in the blood, because in short term stress means when you are asked to do acute work, or otherwise too much of work is there, what is it that is needed is you need to have more awareness, okay, more energy is needed. Okay, so this will be enhanced by epinephrine. More energy is needed means your respiratory rate is enhanced, respiratory metabolism is enhanced, and you need energy. So glucose, more and more glucose is to be pumped into your blood, so that every site in your body, because more awareness means what? Your brain need to work really fast. What is the fuel for brain? It is nothing but glucose. So that's the reason why whenever epinephrine is released into your system, glucose levels will be enhanced. And in case of prolonged stress or otherwise chronic stressful conditions, slightly different kind of mechanism will be activated. So in case of prolonged stress, hypothalamus actually takes the brunt of the prolonged stress. So this activates anterior pituitary cells, so that from the anterior pituitary gland corticotropic hormones are released. So this is ACTH is released, that activates adrenal medulla. So from here you will have release of mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids. Mineralocorticoids, what they does is, whenever corticosteroids like aldosterone are released, they are antidiuretic hormones, or otherwise they retain water as well as ions. The second one is glucocorticoids. They actually does multiple alterations to our biochemistry, but here proteins and fats are converted to glucose or broken down for energy, because this will enhance, this will do something like your epinephrine only, but on chronic level. And then increased blood glucose level is what we can see, suppression of immune system. So these are the three things which we can see in the presence of glucocorticoids like cortisone, okay, beta cortisone, etc. So these, what it does is, it does glucose level enhancement in blood, and it in that process what it is doing is actually it is trying to enhance gluconeogenesis. Okay, it is gluconeogenesis. But whereas in case of epinephrine, it enhances glycogenolysis. Okay, it enhances glycogenolysis, whereas here gluconeogenesis is done. Because gluconeogenesis, if you enhance the pathways related to gluconeogenesis, they can provide glucose over a period of time, because this is a chronic effect. This is chronic. So that's the reason why we need prolonged release of glucose, which is not possible with glycogenolysis. That's the reason why gluconeogenesis is enhanced in case of chronic stressful conditions. Okay, so I hope you understood the logic here. In case of acute stress, we need immediate energy resource. So that's the reason why epinephrine is released, glycogenolysis happens, glucose levels is enhanced. In case of chronic, the duration is longer and the stress is also there over a period of time, over a long period of time. So that's the reason why more sustained production of glucose is needed. So that's the reason why gluconeogenesis is enhanced through release of glucocorticoids into our system. Okay, so here hypothalamus, anterior pituitary gland and adrenal gland, all these three are working. So thereby corticotropin releasing hormone is released from hypothalamus, and in response to that corticotropic hormones like ACTH is released, then that will activate adrenal cortex. So thereby steroidal hormones like mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids are released. Okay, so friends, so this is the way how even stress is also very important. It plays a major role in the maintenance in the carbohydrate metabolism. To summarize, I gave you here the information regarding cortisol, one of the major glucocorticoid synthesized by our system. Okay, so here glucocorticoid or cortisol does influence different tissues. So one of the tissue is liver, where it enhances, as we have seen, gluconeogenesis, and it also enhances glycogen storage. In case of adipose tissue, it enhances glucose uptake and oxidation, and it enhances lipolysis to provide glucose as a precursor for gluconeogenesis. Okay, from glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is synthesized, and then that enters into gluconeogenesis. In skeletal muscle, it inhibits glucose uptake and oxidation, so that more glucose is available in the blood circulation, because As we have seen, in case of stress, which organ is under stress usually? Your brain, not the skeletal muscles. So that's why in acute or in chronic stress, we need more and more glucose to be there in the blood that is meant for brain, so that more thinking can be done. Whereas in case of adrenaline or otherwise epinephrine, okay, the blood glucose is also meant for skeletal muscle as well as brain. So here large quantity of glucose is meant for brain. So that's the reason why glucose uptake and oxidation are inhibited in skeletal muscles. And increase in protein degradation to provide amino acid precursors for gluconeogenesis is also enhanced. So in one or the other way, skeletal muscles are weakened. They will become very weak. Whereas in case of adrenaline, the skeletal muscles will get a boost of energy. So from in pancreas, glucocorticoids or cortisol inhibits insulin secretion in beta cells. Means it is actually working like a glucagon. Okay, it inhibits insulin secretion. It increases glucagon secretion in alpha cells. It induces hyperplasia. It is almost like liver will fail to function. Okay, in one or the other way. So in this way, glucocorticoids alters or influences our carbohydrate metabolism. The next one is thyroid hormones. Thyroid hormones also play a critical role in the maintenance of our body energy reserves. Okay, so if you take it will have thyroid hormones like T3 and T4 have roles like metabolic effects and effect on growth and development. So we will focus on metabolic effect where carbohydrate metabolism is influenced. It increases mobilization of triglycerides and increases malate enzymes and lipogenesis in liver. Okay, because triglycerides are mobilized and liver lipogenesis is enhanced, so that increased BMR and heat production, burning of food material happens more rapidly with the influence of thyroid hormones. Okay, so when thyroid hormones are there, the metabolic reactions are maintained at optimal rate. So whenever we need more energy, thyroid hormones can tune up the heat reserves, tune up the metabolic reactions, so thereby thermal energy, enthalpy of our system can be maintained with the help of thyroid hormones. So friends, so this is the way how various hormones influence our body carbohydrate metabolism. To summarize, one more a table I am showing over here to show the role of various hormones that we have on the carbohydrate metabolism, or otherwise metabolic reactions that are happening inside our body. So here you can see how many hormones are there: insulin, glucagon, epinephrine, thyroid hormones, cortisol and growth hormone. So if you compare all these, insulin is actually enhancing glycolysis, glucogenesis, lipogenesis, protein synthesis, means all the time store glucose or store energy is its objective. Okay, and it actually stops glucogenolysis, means glycolysis is stopped, gluconeogenesis is stopped, lipolysis is stopped, proteolysis is also stopped, because these are actually cooperative, because lipolysis, proteolysis actually supports gluconeogenesis. So in that way, by blocking proteolysis and lipolysis, it will not support gluconeogenesis. Okay, glycogenolysis is also not supported because it is against storage of energy. Okay, because it is utilization of energy. So in this way, insulin is actually showing ultimate output, okay, results. In glucagon, you will see almost opposite to whatever insulin is doing over here. Okay, so here ultimate result is blood glucose level. Okay, increase glucose in blood and spend energy. Make energy available to the system is the job of glucagon. So here epinephrine is the third hormone, which is major hormone. This is what we also call it as flight, fright, fight. So here it does almost similar to glucagon actually, because here glycolysis is enhanced, because in epinephrine we need energy. This is a negative, and here we will see almost similar kind of activities as glucagon. Here proteolysis has no role to play, because adrenaline has no role to play in proteolysis. It will not influence this one. In the remaining, it almost similar to the glucagon activity. In thyroids, because in case of thyroid hormones also they does almost similar to epinephrine. Let's see the differences. There is no difference at all. Only difference over here is protein synthesis, because thyroid hormones are more like T-thermal. Okay, enthalpy of your system is maintained with the help of thyroid hormones, where they largely control carbohydrate metabolism and lipid metabolism. So that's why they will not have significant influence on proteolysis. Then cortisol is the stress hormone. Whenever you feel stressed, cortisol is released. So what it does, it enhances, okay, so gluconeogenesis, because carbohydrate reserves in your body are to be maintained, and blood glucose level is to be maintained at optimal level, so that your brain will have access to glucose. Supply glucose to brain. Okay, glucose to brain, not to skeletal muscles, but whereas in case of epinephrine, to skeletal muscles and brain. Here its objective is only to brain. In case of growth hormone, because growth hormone acts like a tuner, okay, because it works in only specific phases of your life only, because growth hormone is not released continuously. At certain phases of your life, its release will be there. So when it is released, glycolysis is stopped, glycogenesis is enhanced, and then gluconeogenesis is enhanced, glycogenolysis is enhanced, and gluconeogenesis is happening, and then it will have more and more role to play in the protein synthesis, because in case of growth hormone, it enhances anabolic reactions. Okay, your objective is to synthesize protein, helps in growth. So the energy that is supplied will go towards anabolic reactions, protein synthesis, and we should support the growth. So proteolysis will not happen here. Protein synthesis, as well as protein synthesis by making use of energy that is derived from carbon sources like carbohydrates and lipids, is actually done in this way. So friends, so this is the way how various hormones are playing major role in our biochemistry. So friends, let's see the mechanism of action of key metabolic regulators that we have seen so far. So we have how many different hormones are there? We have insulin, glucagon, epinephrine, cortisol, growth hormone, and free fatty acid. Free fatty acids, some of the free fatty acids also can show can also influence our rate of metabolism. So here, except insulin, as we already have seen, all the remaining are enhancing blood glucose level. Okay, the reason is insulin, a uniform mechanism is enough for sending free glucose to storage. So from here we will have different type of energy requirements will be there, because throughout your body every tissue will have its own type of energy requirement, and as you are growing from in one phase to another phase, your energy requirements will vary. So that's the reason why we need to have more different types of chemicals need to be there to control the energy expenditure, okay, distribution of energy throughout your body. And if you see the rate of glucose utilization, okay, from the system, glucose utilization is enhanced, especially in case of insulin. Means from blood the glucose is utilized, so that in liver as well as in skeletal muscle storage of energy will happen. Means large quantity of glucose is converted to glycogen. And if you see, because the carbohydrate metabolism is closely connected with fatty acid metabolism, lipolysis actually will happen in response to carbohydrate metabolism. Insulin decreases lipolysis because it enhances fatty acid, lipid adipose tissue activity and storage of energy in the form of lipids. So that's the reason why it reduces lipolysis, means breakdown of fatty acids. Whereas epinephrine, cortisol and growth hormone, they enhance lipolysis, so that energy is extracted from that energy resource. And one more hormone is there, that is somatotropin. It actually does these things. Okay, it enhances protein synthesis in skeletal muscle. In adipose tissue, it enhances lipolysis and decrease glucose uptake and lipid synthesis. In liver, it enhances glucose output, means glycogenolysis will happen. And then in intestine, increased calcium and phosphorus uptake will happen, so that it helps in the activity of your system and oxidative metabolism, etc. And in mammary gland, increased milk synthesis by increased uptake of nutrients and increased blood flow. In other tissues, decreased amino acid and glucose oxidation happens, increased oxidation of free fatty acids, decreased effects of insulin. So these are the outputs of somatotropin hormone. So friends, I hope you understood the concept of hormonal regulation of carbohydrate metabolism, as we have seen in the to summarize, glucose is stored in our body as glycogen with the help of insulin. Okay, insulin is released when blood glucose level and is So friends, carbohydrate metabolism is under strict control of various hormones. Here for storage we have a limited number of hormones, like only insulin is there. Whereas in case of utilization we have multiple hormones like epinephrine, glucagon, they play major role, as well as cortisol in case of chronic stressful conditions, and growth hormone and somatotropin whenever and wherever that we need, because it all depends upon your body needs. So in this way different hormones, they control glucose storage as well as utilization. As we can see, carbohydrate metabolism is tightly connected to other metabolisms like proteins as well as carbohydrates. So this comprehensive mechanism helps us maintain our energy state, okay, both enthalpy of the system, the heat energy of the system, as well as oxidation reduction potential of our system. So I hope you understood the concept of hormonal regulation of carbohydrate metabolism. If you have any doubts, please let me know through the comment section. I will try to clarify your doubts, and I thank you all for your time and your patient listening. I request you to please share this video with your friends so that they can also get benefited out of it. I will see you again with another very interesting video soon. Thank you.